You're in for a real treat tonight. Next up is a wordsmith extraordinaire. Jon Goode is an Emmy-nominated poet and playwright, resides in Atlanta. He's been featured on CNN's Black in America, HBO's Def Poetry, BET's Lyric Cafe, and TV One's Verses and Flows. And he's been showcased in ads for McDonald's, Nikes, and TV Land Nick at Night. His stage play, Callous, was showcased in the 2013 International Festival of Arts. Ladies and gentlemen, Jon Goode.
Hello. How are you? You look wonderful. My name's Jon Goode. I'm going to do a poem for you. I was sitting debating on what I was going to do, and then boys started talking about gumption, which helped me out a lot. So before I became a poet and a writer, I used to be an accountant. I know, right? Seems odd. I used to sit at my desk all day and I used to write poems. Am I good? There it is. I used to sit at my desk all day and I used to write poems. And they say, how are the books? And I'm like, the books are not so good, but the poems are wonderful. You should read them. You are paying for them. So, it's funny because it's true. So, when I used to talk to my coworkers, I used to ask them, like, what do you do other than this? They say, what do you mean other than this? I'm like, other than this, what do you do? And they said, you know, I come here, I do the work, I go home, I watch a little bit of television, then I go to sleep, I get up, I come here, there's work to do, so I do it. Then I go home, there's that television, I watch some of that, then I go to sleep, I come back here, and I do the work, and I was thinking, this is a nightmare. This can't be your life. No one wants to do this. You ask a child in grade school, what do you want to be when you grow up? They never say, I want to crunch numbers until I die. No one ever says that. That's never the dream. My nephew is 8 years old. I asked him, I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? He says, I want to be a chef, and I want to be an astronaut. Like he wants to cook things in space. I don't even know what that means. But for him, all things are possible. This is that age, you know, when you're young, it can all happen. Teresa Davis, wonderful poet in Atlanta, she has a son. She says to her son, wonderful young African-American young man, she says, you can be anything you want to be in this life. He says, I can. She says, you can. I'm going to kick in doors. I'm going to make a way for you. You can be anything you want to be. He said, I can. She said, you can. You would not be marginalized or painted into a corner. You can be anything you want to be. What do you want to be? And he said, I want to be Chinese. And she said, you know, a minute ago when I said you could be anything you want to be, that was too strong. It was too strong. So I was thinking about this, speaking with my coworkers, and they would tell me about, you know, their abilities, their talents, and I realized that what we have in my office building, at least at that time, was a bunch of amazing people, a bunch of supermen who had somehow been convinced that they were merely Clark Kent. So I wrote a poem for them. It is called 200 Million Clark Kents. So I suppose there were about 1 billion boys in the Justice League. I'm talking coast to coast, I'm talking sea to shining sea, a bunch of snotty-nosed kids in tattered jeans and dirty tees. They stand on their tiptoes, point their hands toward the sun, and at the top of their lungs, they'd scream up, up, and away. And no matter how impossible or improbable it seemed, with a towel tied around their neck, hanging just below their knees, and an S magic market on their chest, they try to fly in their dungarees, yes. They had the fire of youth in their eyes. They swore they'd always tell the truth, save the damsel in distress in the world from its demise, yes. They're the kind of imagination that innovation and creation demand. They were all in the Justice League, and they all truly believed they'd grow up one day to be a Superman. And 20 years later, many sit dutiful, dressed to impress, every day in their cubicles, depressed, staring at screens with youthful dreams they never dare admit. I confess, out of 1 billion, I've seen at least 200 million boys, no less, that have become men and let time cover up the S on their chests, stressed, because they've been forced to forget that they're the sons of Jor-El, that they're really Kal-El. They forget they had plans to be Superman. And there they stand on the northbound platform, or stuck in the morning drive, rushing off to their 9 to 5, thinking that's that for them. These supermen think the pinstripes in their suits are iron bars they can't bend as they sit at their desks filling out tax forms. Faster than a speeding bullet and swift as the wind, they quickly discovered that the rat race is one not even Superman can win. Yet their youth is looked back on. You see, the heat of their visions have died behind their eyes. The S's on their chests are now hidden behind designer ties. Kids that made decisions to save lives now save ties to give the supervillains who sometimes use God as their disguise. What kind of bizarro world is this? Where we've all got it about as backward as Mixoplex, where Superman grows up to be Clark Kent. A day trader watching Oprah who trades in his cape for a rover. He works late, he stays over, and he pins all of his hopes to bank and Post-it notes because his fortress of solitude is facing foreclosure. Instead of fighting against the opposition, he now goes toe-to-toe for promotions and positions, and each time he gets them, it takes him a little bit further from who he wanted to be. He traded in his spandex for an Amex, and now he gentrifies tall buildings in a single bound. He's put all his feelings in a lead safe so even he can't make the mistake of seeing how he feels about the fellow he's become. He's weekdays because he spends his weekdays in krypton nights, tasking beneath fluorescent lights, when his strength comes from basking in the yellow sun. By the time he's 41, he will have forgotten he ever wanted to fly. By 45, he will have taken a position as a politician and forgotten he never wanted to lie. By 47, all thoughts of the Superman he wanted to become are almost gone. He hasn't saved a life in years. Not even his own. And one night on the way home, you'll see some of his Justice League peers, their S's and blazing clear and true. They'll look at his briefcase, his beard, and they'll say, man, what happened to you? And he'll say, I grew up. And they'll say, yeah, but what did you grow into? They'll say, look, Clark, we understand. You've got to do what you've got to do. You probably own property, stock, bonds, and buildings. You probably live properly and stand to make millions. But you used to want to be Superman. You used to have plans to save Congolese women and South American children to fight against injustice, inequality, robber barons, and corporate villains. True, you'd have never made a million, but you'd have certainly made a difference. I say to each of you Clark Kents hearing this, I know there's no phone booth to allow you to change back into your youth. No broom closet to deposit this facade you bought into and reemerge a god, but you must try as hard as you might to reignite the fire that has died in your spirit, heart, and eyes. Forget the script and the lies. Look into your mind and find the Superman inside, because Kent is a distraction and a disguise. So leave yesterday's glasses and briefcase behind. Tie your suit jacket around your neck. Use the pen you used to sign your check to write an S on your chest. Now climb onto your desk and point your hands toward the sky, because you just may fly today. The past is in the wind, the present here and gone again, but the future is up, up, and away. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.